And as the current goes through them, they go down. And so if you draw too much current, then they're going to kick a little thermal sensor in there, and it's going to open up this contactor. And that's it. It's that simple.
And you notice that NEMA size 1?
Let me go back.
Right here where it says NEMA size 1, if you just go online and Google NEMA size 1 motor controller, you'll get a NEMA bulletin that talks about the horsepower ratings for all NEMA size controllers. And it'll go from, was it like double watt up to or something? Yeah.
And the NEMA size generally goes right with the horsepower. This one says 27 amps. I'm looking to see if it has a horsepower.
Yeah,
Oh, here, right here.
See it?
Right here.
Okay.
So at 460, it's good for up to 10 horsepower on a NEMA 1 starter. So here's a close-up of those elements, and each manufacturer's design of elements is unique. There's no, you can't interchange from one manufacturer to the other. You're stuck with whatever manufacturer that is. So, and it's a challenge when you're doing a lot of motors, because usually the supply houses don't have a lot of stock of motor elements for heaters. So where fuses are used for the motor overload protection, a fuse shall be inserted in each ungrounded conductor, and the grounded conductor supplies a 3-wire 3-phase, one for each circuit. So overload relay protection. The maximum branch circuit short circuit ground fault protection device shall not be exceeded if they are shown in the manufacturer's overload. What we're saying is there's a table inside the equipment such as this. And if that table where you size your overloads tells you that in order for that overload to properly protect that motor, it needs a certain size fuse ahead of it, you have to follow that information.
Even if 430.52 gives you a different size, you may be further limited by the manufacturer.
So here we have an example of the full load current of the nameplate of our motor. This is where we use nameplate ratings only for overload. Tells us that we need to use a 10 amp fuse when we use a C356A heater element. Okay? Now, we're going to show you different manufacturers. This is GE. You see, these are the heaters here. You notice they're totally different in design. And if you were to pull one of these out, there's a little finger on it that's wrapped with real fine wire. And that's how these work. Here's another example of a GE.
This one actually just brings out and gives you a different view of that same installation.
Here, this over here, sometimes in motor starters, we will have a what's called a control transformer. This is the control transformer that controls the coil voltage here and goes out to any start-stop stations. So that's what you're looking at here. Here's the disconnect. This particular disconnect happens to be a non-fused disconnect, so we probably have a fuse block down here.
So automatic restarting, if you have a motor overload device, restart a motor automatically after overload treatment shall not be installed unless it's approved specifically for the motor protects, and you cannot use it if automatic restarting of the motor can result in injury to persons.
Right. Now, a good example of that is, how many people have ever on their garbage disposal jammed it and it shut off? What shut off on it was an overload. You blocked the road already. And it has a little thermal sensor in it, which is an overload. It's an overload, and it's the type designed internally for a single-phase motor. That's what you have, okay? And it cannot start automatically, because if you were trying to clear that thing out automatically, it would start up, okay? So, and that's the reason it has a red button that you have to manually push on the bottom to restart it. That's an overload. It's based on temperature. When that motor starts to draw too much current, when it's getting jammed up, that's the overload protection for that motor. You have to manually restart it.
orderly shutdown, so if you needed to have an orderly shutdown for a continuous process, like aluminum smelting, something like that, a motor overload sensing device is permitted to be connected to a supervised alarm. So instead of